Probably the best place to start, Zach, would just be taking another look at the social blade for TYT, which has gotten even worse since our last live stream, in which we took a look at the fact that they were down 10,000 subscribers. Now, Zach, as you see, that graph it's getting even more pronounced in its downward trend, the negative trend. As you can see here now, TYT is down 20,000 subscribers. That's since December 9th, it looks like. So that's, that's a pretty big hit for a channel that big. Obviously, once you're in that, once you're in that territory on YouTube, what you really want to avoid is the death spiral. And that's what really kills big channels like TYT with a lot of legacy subs. When you eventually get to a point where more people are unsubscribing than are subscribing. Now, obviously, it remains to be seen if TYT is able to come back from this, if they're able to survive this, if they're able to, fight on and live to see another day. But what I think is really concerning, probably from Cenk and Anna's perspective, and just from the business perspective, as far as keeping this channel relevant and keeping it alive, is what I talked about, avoiding that death spiral, trying to make sure that they can get back to gaining views instead of just consistently losing them from here on out, which, like I said, is basically how you get the algorithm to totally stop promoting your content. Do you think they're going to recover soon, or do you think it's going to keep bleeding?
Oh, dude, I'm even more pessimistic than you are at this point. I think that once you're in this kind of, they've already been in dire straits for a long time, guys. And I think that's something that's worth pointing out. You can look at this last month and it's kind of like, okay, this is the final, death toll coming home. But it's been building for a long time. This is the culmination of a lot of months in the red, guys. When you have 6 million subscribers, I want you guys to think off the top of your head. Other channels with 6 million subscribers, what kind of average video view count are they sporting over there? Is it 25,000 views? Is it 50,000 views? Is it even 75,000 views? Absolutely not. If you have 6 million subscribers, you should be on the regular hitting videos that have 750,000 views. 1 million views should be your breakout number. And that's not even, and that's with a massive, kind of grace element of the fact that if you do have 6 million subscribers, you're not going to have them all, hyper vigilant and relevant unless you're like Mr. Beast or Joe Rogan or something, right? That there is going to be an element of legacy subscribers. But to be honest, Gavin, you watched, and I don't mean this as a sign of disrespect to this person that we're about to bring up. They had an incredible run and they're still making content and they're still having a good career. I just don't think anybody would deny that it's a step back from where they were. And I would give that, I would talk about TJ Kirk a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. The amazing atheist. That guy was a forefather and a trailblazer, as you've mentioned a lot on our show, Gavin, of the new atheist movement, of the, I'm an atheist, fight me, I'm going to make YouTube videos kind of rah movement. And it was huge and it exploded. But at a certain point, TJ started losing more subscribers than he was gaining. And he even, I think, openly talked about this, how it makes it really, really hard to have new videos come out that do well, no matter how hard you work on them, no matter how good the actual content is, right? So we've seen that for a long time from the Young Turks, right? When was the last time you guys in chat remember a Young Turks video breaking 500,000 views? Right. Yeah. It hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah. And I think the most embarrassing part about that is that when they do address the drama, it actually backfires even more, which is hilarious, because about a month ago, I think on a Circle Jerk episode, I said they should lean into this. They should talk about it more, right? They should actually address the drama. Those clips would actually do the, best. They would blow up. People would be forced to watch it because of the drama and all that stuff. But that's actually not the case. We reviewed one the other day where Cenk reiterated his 3 rules for the internet, doubling down on this, attempt to pander to MAGA, and make it this, enlightened strategy or whatever. That one got like 16,000 views, completely humiliating. But let's take a look at this one, Zach. We're not going to watch that video. It's a total snooze fest, to be honest. But they just released this, I think, 20 hours ago, with some guy from Our Revolution, which isn't exactly.
He has a nice haircut. I'll give him that. He's got some drip on him.
But Our Revolution, say what you will about it, the executive director joined Cenk for an in-depth conversation, and as you can see, it got 24,000 views, partially because they branded it as such. Bernie Sanders' political organization says populism is better than identity politics. Bro, your audience does not want this shit. The people in your audience don't want to hear this garbage. The people in your audience understand that you can have both at once, that real populism includes a focus on, identity politics. You can brand it however you want. You can seed into the right-wing framing of these issues when we talk about marginalized people. You can call it identity politics, racial justice. You can call it identity politics, police brutality. You can call it identity politics all you want. But we do have to focus on those things. We're not going to stop trying to hold police officers accountable when they murder innocent black people in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, Cenk, that's not going to happen. And your audience understands that. Like I said, a real populist movement can still include a focus on the rights and issues of marginalized people, civil rights, as someone just said in chat. That's part of populism. Am I crazy, Zach?
No, I mean, the entire basis of a true populist movement that's rooted in the working class is going to be intersectionality, right? So it's not, we don't care about any of the issues except for our bottom line fundamental class analysis that we think you should all adopt. We're not going to talk about LGBTQ struggle. We're not going to talk about, historical oppression of black folks. We're not going to talk about immigration issues unless they're benefiting people who are already entrenched citizens of the United States, legal naturalized citizens, whatever, right? Okay. What we have to remind everyone is that will not work. Okay, if we're all going to band together, it means we all have to band together and be united. I always go back to the Senator Nina Turner line. Are you willing to fight for someone you don't know? Are you willing to pick up arms, stand together with people and say, this might not directly affect me, but I'm a human being with a heart and soul, and I want to stand with this person because I understand oppression is wrong. I understand bigotry in all of its capacities are wrong, whether or not it's a classist-based bigotry, whether or not it's a racialized discrimination, whether or not it's something about, who you go home and have sex with, whatever it is, I'm not going to allow that, right? I'm not going to stand for that. So when we have an umbrella politics, when we say we are going to join forces together, it means we have to draw a line in the sand and say, these fundamental human rights belong to all of us, and that's our baseline, right? It used to be something that we understood in this country, right? All people are created equal. That means we're not throwing them down the fucking street. We're not rolling over them with the bus just to get another thing accomplished. We talked about this the other day on the broadcast, how one of the fundamental flaws of FDR's New Deal revolution was that it left behind people of color. It left behind black folks. It left behind minority votes, right? Those people continue to be oppressed. Those people continue to suffer under Jim Crow laws in the South, right? They got left behind, okay? There had to be an entirely separate Civil Rights Act struggle to bring those people on. We're saying we're not doing that this time. It is all one struggle. It is all one struggle for all of us. And if it's not a fucking struggle for all of us, it's a struggle for none of us. It's a struggle for them. That's the whole idea, that when they've removed the economic element from the struggle, then that's cheap and phony. When they remove the racial or the socioeconomic or the gender or whatever the fuck element from the struggle, that's inauthentic because it's not intersectional. It doesn't band us all together, right? It's a way of finding a new way to divide us. So you can't have one of any of these things. You can't just have the economic populism. You can't just have the Black Lives Matter element because we've seen what happens there. It'll get corrupted by wealth. It'll get corrupted by status, right? I'm going on a little bit of tangent here, but you guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And if we take a look at just a couple, I promise I'm not going to subject you to very much. But again, I think most people in the TYT audience feel that way. They understand that they don't want to leave behind marginalized people. They might not want to obsess on like the trans issue or something. They don't want to make it forefront in our political campaigns or whatever, but they understand that we can't leave these people behind. But yeah, let's take a look at what Cenk has to say real quick.
So look, we got to look inside our house a little bit too. So when you say progressive, Joe, we got to break that down a little bit because I'm in the economically populist wing, and I'm not in the identity politics wing. And so, I'm not interested in we have to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a black woman. No, Condoleezza Rice is also a black woman. I don't have to vote for her. It depends.
And again, it's like it's more straw mans. It's endless straw men from Cenk Uygur. That's not something that really anyone on the progressive left is saying. Not that I heard at
when
least.
When did
I think
Condoleezza Rice run for anything?
Right. And again, most people that were arguing to vote for Kamala Harris, like saying, hey, there's two options here. One of them is clearly a lot better than the other. With the exception of a few people that brought race and gender into it. I think I remember even Michael Moore was like, I want, America needs a woman or something like that. I think even Jesse Ventura was like, I'm going to be honest, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she's a woman or something like that. But for the most part, when it comes to progressives, when it comes to people on the left, I think the argument was a pretty substantive argument. It was not, hey, Donald Trump is a white man and Kamala Harris is a black woman, therefore you got to vote for Kamala Harris. No, that's ridiculous. I heard a lot of substantive arguments for voting Democrat, just as I did when Joe Biden was their candidate, right? An old ass white man. So I actually think that Kamala Harris did a pretty good job of not making identity central to her campaign. Cenk knows that, but he's going to run with this line anyway because it's cheap and it's easy. And, it's something that just kind of sounds correct, even though it's not. Oh, yeah, just, blame the left for, over focusing on identity politics. And maybe that's why the Democrats are unpopular. Like, what is this fucking 2015, bro? This is such like, a decade old logic. This is such, tired talking points, bro. We've had this conversation a million fucking times. Can you find a new drum to beat, please? You're so late to this party.
Oh, I know. And that's what's crazy about it, right? It's acting like the left hasn't already had to cross that road and make those cases. Like the first time we all got attacked in 2016 is being Bernie bros. Oh, you hate women. Like, oh, you don't, as you said, like 2015 talking points, right? And then again in 2020, when the left actually outsmarted Cenk Uygur. Cenk Uygur actually was kind of flirting with Elizabeth Warren at that time. When it looked like Elizabeth Warren was going to surge, he was totally willing to be like, you know what, they're both really progressive. And I have to give it up to Anna Kasparian at that time was like, you know what, dude, no. She's actually not that progressive compared to Bernie Sanders. Like, she's done good things. You're right, Cenk. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was good. That's why Bernie Sanders wanted her to run against Hillary in 2016, because he was like, oh, perfect. Here is a woman that will challenge Hillary Clinton that you can't portray as a radical, but would have had a much different approach to the financial crash than somebody like Obama and certainly as to somebody like Hillary Clinton. She chose not to. She waited until she could come out and handicap him, undercut his momentum, and make him have to fight for progressive votes. And Cenk aided and abetted in that, right? Because, oh, you know what? She is a woman. She's younger, blah, blah, blah. She's polling really well with people. He was the one that fell for that identity trap. He was the one that was willing to flirt with it, particularly in the immediate aftermath of Bernie's heart attack. A lot of people forget the energy was down on Bernie Sanders in 2020's primary right after he had the heart attack. This is one of the most courageous moments of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's entire career. She went to the hospital, and that was when she delivered her second endorsement of Bernie Sanders for president. I guess nobody probably would have cared about her first endorsement for president, but I know she was a supporter of his in 2016. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we've already been through this, right? The left will look at your policy, not your identity. We picked Bernie over Hillary. We picked Bernie over Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker and all of the other individuals of color or minority groups in 2020. And we said, fuck you. We want the old white guy because he's the one that's based. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to pretend like progressives aren't interested in the policy.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
One thing I did also want to throw up here really quickly, Gavin, is just another overview of the Young Turks declining channel views really quickly, because I just want everybody to see that video you threw up is not I guess an outlier.
A one-off.
Right? Yeah. It's 25,000, 27,000, 42,000, 33,000, 27,000, 120,000. At this point, guys, these numbers are no different than the kind of numbers that the Vanguard gets when we release clips, okay? And we have 75,000 subscribers and not 6 million subscribers. It's actually, at one point, I would have told you it was mathematically impossible for the Young Turks to put out a video with a thumbnail of Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, have it feature J.R. Jackson and John Iadarola and Cenk Uygur. These billionaires are sucking up to Donald Trump with donations, and it got 13,000 views. I mean, it's just pathetic, guys, what's going on over there. And it's because they've crippled the channel.
Yep. 100%. And also, like I said, it's just such lazy analysis from like 4 or 5 years ago, this blaming wokeness for the failures of the Democratic Party. It's a matter of fucking fact, guys, that the Republican Party ran a campaign that was far more obsessed with identity politics than the Democrats, constantly bringing up tons of crap, trying to divide the country by talking about trans migrants at the border and kids and field hockey and all kinds of crazy shit, right? It's not the Democrats that ran an identity focused or an identity obsessed campaign. What I will say that I, actually do kind of feel bad for when it comes to Kamala Harris, not that I feel bad for her on, very many grounds whatsoever. I think she did run a pretty bad campaign, and it's very valid to criticize it for many, many reasons. But the one thing that I do feel bad about is that Joe Biden, before selecting her as his running mate, he said, I'm going to pick a black woman, right? So no matter who he picked, no matter what black woman he selected, it was always going to come off like it was an affirmative action pick. And that is something that I really do think hurt Kamala Harris, because tons of Americans said this lady was not picked for any other reason than her race. Joe Biden doesn't even like her. She came after him on the debate stage in the very first Democratic primary debate. She called him racist, and now he's only picking her because of the George Floyd protest, and he wants to appease this section of the voting population, right? So that was a terrible idea on Joe Biden's part. And I think a lot of Americans did genuinely feel like Kamala Harris was a DEI pick. As racist as it sounds, I do think a lot of Americans thought that. But again, it's not because Kamala Harris leaned too much into race. It's not because she ran a campaign that was obsessed with race or gender or identity politics. No, it's because of Joe Biden setting her up for failure in that way, instead of just picking her and pretending that it was because of her merits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was honestly kind of horseshit for him to come out and say,
It
I'm
was.
going to pick a black woman. It's like, well, if you feel in your heart that that's what you need to do, then do it and walk
Right.
the walk. But
and he did it to one up Bernie on the debate stage and be like, I'm going to pick a black woman. I bet you're not.
And it just reeked of phony neoliberal horseshit, right?